What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, FightfulMMA.com, obviously our MMA division of Fightful.com. If you guys aren't taking part in our live coverages of UFC shows, you're missing out. We have pick'em events ahead of each show. We've got these neat little wrap-ups. We've got previews. You can find all that at FightfulMMA.com and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/FightfulMMABoxing. Now, we do syndicate this on our main channel as well to kind of give them a little bit of a taste of the MMA side of things. But we had UFC Fight Night Boston, a rare Friday show, one headlined by Chris Weidman making his 205-pound debut, way overdue, against number 4, Dom Reyes. Things did not work out for Chris Weidman. This move should have happened quite a while back. Honestly, I thought it should have happened after the Romero loss, when Chris Weidman lost that championship, and he was a great champion. Don't let anybody tell you differently based on recency bias. After he lost that championship, I could understand him wanting to get it back from Rockhold. After he got beat by Romero, man, I thought he should have moved up. Because if you're fighting Gegard Mousasi, I'm like, why don't you just do that fight at 205 pounds? They're both within the mark of 205 pounds. They're both big middleweights. But he kept going, and he lost that fight. He did beat Gastelum, which was a legitimately great win, but lost to Jacare in a great fight, but also got finished. Dom Reyes finished Weidman as well and did it with the quickness, with a nice step back left straight that dropped Weidman. Then he followed up with ground and pound. It was filthy. Weidman has now been finished each of the last 5 years. 2015 against Luke Rockhold, 2016 against Romero, 2017 against Mousasi, 2018 against Souza, and now 2019 against Reyes. Weidman, however, indicated that he was not going to retire, and I'm okay with that. There are a lot of people that said, he needs to hang it up, Do I think that Weidman's cooked? Yeah, I do. Do I think that Weidman is done at the top levels of MMA? Yes, I do. Do I think his best days are behind him? You damn right. Do I think that he can take a punch anymore? Not like he used to. But let's not forget, Andrei Arlovski in 2011, although he was 3 years younger than Weidman is now, and in a completely different division, heavyweight, which things are a little more unpredictable, everybody thought that Arlovski was glass-jawed and done and would never, ever compete again. Well, since then, since that run where he got KO'd by Kharitonov, he's never been straight KO'd. He's been TKO'd an awful lot. But he worked his way back into the UFC after that and has had a longer run this go than he did his first time. And since he beat Rothwell in July, is going to get another 3 or 4 fights. So I don't think the UFC is going to cut Weidman unless he loses like 2 or 3 more in a row. Since he beat Gastelum, they'll make him lose 2 more in a row before they get the star power used up out of him. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's sticking around. Good for him if he wants to keep fighting and people want to keep watching it, whatever. As long as he's got to be responsible with it. Dom Reyes has been responsible with it. He's now 6-0 in the UFC. And he's got some nice names on that resume, the last 4 goes of it. At least from a name value, Chris Weidman. He had that controversial win over Volkan Ozdemir back in March. He beat Ovint St. Preux last year, and he TKO'd Jared Cannonier. Those are some good wins, and he's now 12-0. He called out John Jones. I like this. It makes a whole lot more sense than Jan Blachowicz. Johnny Walker probably isn't quite ready yet, so I'm completely fine with that as well. That makes a lot of sense to me. Go ahead and do it. Dom Reyes, John Jones, let's get it cooking. Let's get it going. Walker has Corey Anderson on the November 2nd card. So I could see that if Johnny Walker just completely blows Corey Anderson out of the water on November 2nd, or has some sort of performance that just dominates Corey Anderson, I could see Johnny Walker being the hot hand getting the fight. You know, he would have one of the best years in light heavyweight history for somebody not named John Jones, and that's after dealing with a shoulder injury for a lot of it. I could see that happening. It's close enough to where you could do that and not make another fight, but as things stand, I think Dom Reyes deserves that title shot. Yair Rodriguez defeated Jeremy Stephens. This was a rematch from last month in Mexico City. Yair Rodriguez accidentally poked Jeremy Stephens in the eye, rendering Stephens unable to compete. It was a trash fire. Fortunately, they rebooked it for this show, and this show needed this fight too. I think this was the right fight to put here. It was a good fight. Yair Rodriguez came out of the gate just crazy, flying kick. Stephens regained the advantage briefly, was able to take a round, but Yair Rodriguez ends up winning. And man, it's wild to think about it, because when I think of Yair Rodriguez, honestly, what I think of the most is him getting beat by Frankie Edgar. And that shouldn't be what I think of, because Yair is much better than that loss 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Since then, he's beaten Korean Zombie, and he's obviously unbeaten in the 2 Jeremy Stephens fights, but we're talking about a guy who's got 1 loss in 10 fights and has beaten some guys like Dan Hooker and Jeremy Stephens and Korean Zombie. My thing is, Dan Hooker was nowhere near his peak. BJ Penn ain't worth a shit. Korean Zombie, inconsistent in the middle of his fights. And Jeremy Stephens just isn't what he was a few years ago, or a year and a half ago even. He's not won a fight in his last 4, and he's fought top talent. And that's always been Stephens' bag. He has trouble with the tip-top guys. Best guy I think he's ever beat, Dos Anjos in 2008, well before he became what he is, and then Barao well after he was what he was. You got to give Yair a top 5 opponent. That just makes sense. You got to do that. Greg Hardy defeated Ben Sassoli. Yeah, sure. Greg Hardy, his latest fight against the dude at least, used an inhaler. I don't have a problem with it. Sure, let a guy use an inhaler. I don't give a shit. Lots of people up in arms about it, making jokes about it. Doesn't bother me. Joe Lozon. Boy, I predicted this one. Hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. Joe Lozon, I don't want to say he was on his UFC deathbed by any stretch of the imagination, but he had lost 3 fights in a row, and that's never happened to him before. He had only lost 2 fights in a row once, but he had not won a fight since January 2017. You definitely don't want to go 3 years between wins. And I had said in the preview, this isn't the same Joe Lozon that we saw 3+ years ago, winning fight of the night and performance of the night, and then 6-7 years ago, winning it every single time out. Well, he might. He TKO'd Jonathan Pierce with the quickness, got a stay of execution in the UFC. He's the guy who's going to get 3 or 4 more fights, and every time they're in the Northeast, UFC should book him. Look at what they do, man. The last 2 times out, Boston and Brooklyn. Why not? Norfolk, East Coast. Why not? But, he was booked on that Connecticut show in 2014. That's why you keep a guy like that around. He was booked in Boston in 2013, Boston in 2010. Makes a lot of sense. He's fought in Newark. He came up fighting in Massachusetts, so it makes a lot of sense. Good for Joe Lozon. You know what? I'm not going to hate on familiar names hanging around in the UFC. That's for sure. Macy Barber is going to be one of those familiar names. She is now 3-0 in the UFC. She beat Jillian Robertson with the quickness. Not with the quickness. 3 minutes in. Hit some wild punches that connected, and that's what matters. She's got those punches to land. She took home her victory. She's won 3 fights in a row in the UFC. She also has that win on Contender Series as well. But when you look at her down the line, man, they brought her up the right way. They eased her in, and she's a top 15 person already, but she's just now fighting top 15 names, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay to bring somebody along like that. I think that was fair. I like the way it happened. I like the way it unfolded. Macy Barber, they're pushing her hard. They're putting like 30, 40-minute interviews out there, and now she's got 3 wins in a row in a flyweight division. I like it. Darren Stewart, Duran win. 188-pound catch weight. Duran Win missed the weight. That ain't good, missing weight by that much. Got to believe it affected him during this fight, but still you have half the media scoring it for win, half the scorecards for Stewart. And over on fan scoring, it's 46% win, 53% Stewart. And that is very reflective of how close this fight was. Drawn win, man. He came in as like a mini Cormier. He didn't leave as one, though, because he ended up with that L. Charles Rosa defeated Manny Bermudez. Bermudez, man, he's not looking so great these days. He missed weight tonight. He missed weight in February. And I think they had to move the August fight with Casey Kenny. Yeah, Casey Kenny, they were supposed to fight on August 17th, but they moved it to 140 pounds. And just like that's not a good look, you know. He came in and he won his first 3 UFC fights. Sorry to stutter. And he was a highly touted prospect. 7 months ago, Manny Bermudez is a 14-0 prospect who had finished a bunch of his fights, has an amazing triangle choke and an amazing guillotine choke. Very good. However, he missed weight. They had to agree to a catch weight, and then he misses weight again. I wouldn't be shocked if he got cut from this. And I don't want anybody to lose their job. Molly McCann ain't losing her job. She whipped Diana Belbita's ass. One-sided. She's won 3 fights in a row. Another one. You know, I wouldn't doubt that she ends up in those rankings. And I wouldn't doubt that she might get a fight with Macy Barber next. I like Molly McCann. I thought she looked awesome. Sean Woodson dominated Kyle Bochniak. Randy Costa TKO'd Boston Salmon. Sean Brady defeated Court McGee via unanimous decision. Court McGee, the tough winner, way back at Tough 11 in 2010. He's lost 4 or 5. I don't know if they'll keep him around. I mean, he's the kind of guy they could cut if they wanted, or if they wanted to fill out cards, they could keep around. But you could do a lot worse than a 9-year run when you never won 3 fights in a row outside of your early. A lot of those tough fighters, though, or just fighters in general, they'll win 3 fights in a row, get some buzz about them, and never be there again. Like, you just won't. I mean, he lost to guys like Costa Philippou, who have been out of the sport for several years. Nick Ring, who got out of the sport, 4 or 5 years ago as well. He was a couple of their signature wins, and he just hasn't lived up to what they thought he would be as a tough winner. Brendan Allen defeated Kevin Holland, submission rear naked choke round 2, and Tanner Boser defeated Daniel Spitz. Leave a thumbs up on this video and subscribe. This is on audio platforms everywhere as well, at least when we do the pay-per-view recaps. These we're going to leave on YouTube. But just leave a thumbs up, subscribe, check out youtube.com/Fightful and youtube.com/Fightful MMA Boxing. Till next time, we're out.